Welcome on in to the Utah Blockcast. Man, what a weekend. Huh, fellas? What a weekend. Utah
Victory
gets the win
Monday,
34-32. Woo, man. That one hits a little different.
Just a little.
Just a little. Just what a game over the weekend. Let me intro everybody first before we get into this. Myself, Steve Bartle, Andrew McCullough. We got Tyson Mall, Cameron Beck on this one. The whole gang. Fellas, how we feeling? How we doing?
Better than I thought I would be.
Same.
Yeah.
I think I had at least a year taken off my life, but I feel good now.
Let's just dive into the show, man. I think what big takeaway or little question might you have? Cam, let's go with let's start with you.
Behold your new king, Bryson Barnes. Is my takeaway. There's a newsletter that we wrote, went out Sunday morning, with essentially that premise. He did everything he was asked from Utah and more, and the numbers don't jump out on the page. It's not the sexiest stat line, but for the amount of snaps he played, he had something it was just over 10, right around 11 yards per attempt. And he had 4 touchdowns overall and 1 interception, on the road in a place you've only won now twice in 100 years. The third string former pig farmer got it done and used his legs and his arm to do it. Yeah, he had some new tools in his bag with Sione Vaki and others, but Bryson Barnes is your king of Utah football right now.
Andrew, what's your big takeaway or little question?
I mean, take a lot there, Cam, and I had absolutely no input on that article, but I loved it. It was like when one of your famous writer writes about one of your personal muses. It's that's good stuff right there. So if you didn't check out that article by the Utah Blockcast, you got to check it out. But my big takeaway is, regardless of what's coming up next, it's unfortunate that the Utah USC game is going away. This thing has got some legs in the last, say, 2 years, really. It's big time. The world pays attention. College football world was paying attention. You saw tweets, you saw videos, you saw clips. The entire world was talking about it. Of course, the headline is that Utah football owns USC football, and Kyle Whittingham is their daddy. And so really
Same headline as ever.
Same headline as ever. If you guys paid attention to the University of Utah graphic that they posted, it was one of Satoa Lamea after the game. He was at like a sound mixing board with his feet up. He had a screen in front of him talking about Death Row Records. It said experts believe that Utah football, or concur that Utah football now owns USC football. And that's absolutely right. Put it in your pipe and smoke it. That's 4 straight. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that the powers that be at USC aren't going to invite Utah back anytime soon. So in USC, enjoy that. Those
Harlan should reach out, though.
You got to make the call. The worst they can do is say no. And best case scenario, you can maybe videotape it and release the audio of that call. Something tells me the USC presidents aren't too keen on the idea of playing Utah football ever again.
Yo, tell me Fox. Tell me Fox or ESPN isn't going to jump on some kind of Las Vegas neutral site game to open a season. It's
second home.
There,
second home.
It's there.
Oh man, Tyson, big takeaway, little question. What you got?
A bit of both. The question, but it's a big takeaway, and it's how far can Utah ride this wave right now? This team for this last 2 weeks is not the same team that we saw the first 4 of the season, first 5 of the season. Definitely not the team that played against Oregon State. Granted, mostly the offense, but I just want to know how far can Utah kind of ride this momentum. They're playing extremely well, and they're playing extremely together right now, which any team playing like that is dangerous against any team that they play. I've been a part of those teams where you kind of just get everything starts to click at the right time, and you're all playing together, you're playing well, and you're kind of just feeding off each other. And I just want to know, how far can Utah ride this wave?
Till the crash, baby.
Hey, who knows? There might not be one. That's what I'm saying. There probably will be, but
just one more week. If we could go one more week, sky's the limit.
Crash against Arizona State.
No, if you can go one more week, if you can go one more week and crash after that, you go down as at least like the Kingslayers in the pack. Like even if you don't beat Washington, but like honestly, if you're gonna lose a couple games down the stretch, fuck it. Lose the Arizona State and Colorado games. Beat USC, Oregon, and Washington. Do what you got to do. Like go down as the Kingslayers. Go down as just like, yeah, the Pac-12 died because Utah kept murdering everyone in the building.
Isn't that becoming Utah's brand? It's
yes, it
like
is.
Put our president in the room, murders everyone in the building.
We need somebody to do a GIF with like the soup Nazi with Kyle Whittingham. It's like no playoffs for you, to the Pac-12, because Utah makes sure that nobody else is going to go. If it ain't us, none of y'all are going.
But so many like national writers got like Spencer Hall.
Spencer Hall
making
Utah. Oh man, he has made them his second favorite team.
He said something about it on the full cast after dark this last week about like that Utah, that's what Utah's power is they absorb the fandom and essence of the teams that they defeat. Anyway, welcome USC fans.
No. I think that's the one exception.
Oh no. Yeah. Can we pass? Yeah. So anyways, Tyson, that's a great point. And I was going to ask something else, but maybe I'll just do both. But I really think like, I just lost my train of thought. Where was I going with that? Anyway, I'll just ask my question.
You really think, I'll finish your thought. You really think Lincoln Riley is the new Jimbo Fisher? And you know what? I think you might be right.
Who goes first?
Did you see the stats of like, there was like, hey, I think Brett McMurphy tweeted it. It was like first 70-something games at Texas A&M, and Kevin Sumlin had a 2-game lead on Jimbo Fisher. And then it was like first 22 games at USC, and Clay Helton and Lincoln Riley are tied. And it's just like, ooh, very tough. Those are not 4 names I want to be lumped in with right now.
Courtesy of Kyle Whittingham.
Not when I'm making $10 million.
Yeah, he's got 5 losses since he got to USC, and 3 of those are Utah.
3 of those are Kyle. Wow.
We've beat them 3 times in a calendar year. Is that correct?
They're the only. Yeah. Utah's the only Pac-12 team that Lincoln Riley and Caleb Williams have lost to.
That's crazy. That is crazy. I'll just throw this out there. Why doesn't Utah just have like a full-time Weddle package player in the offense? With Sione Vaki coming over, making that switch, that's my little question. Why can't we just make this a permanent role in the offense? Why can't this just continue? Why does it have to be these unique situations where we're scratching and crawling for depth at any way, any place we can get it, any and because
Sione Vakis don't grow on trees, Steve.
They don't, but why can't Utah just continue to recruit?
I think it's a lot of
to that position.
I mean, there's so many safeties in the room right now as well. And like Sione Vaki is just that guy. And then you've got a guy like Nate Ritchie who can come in and fill in pretty well. And fill in behind somebody like Sione Vaki and give him some breathers when he needs to. I mean, with all of the curses that have happened on the injury front this year, Utah is blessed in the safety room right now. There's a lot of really good things. Yeah, implied, but a lot of great things happening in that room for Utah right now.
For sure. Yeah. Let's move Sione to the offense side permanently. Let's make it his own position. Call it whatever you want. And let's just recruit to the Vaki position.
How about this?
Embrace it.
Do we think Sione Vaki has more offensive plays against Oregon than he does defensive?
Ooh.
No.
No.
I'm gonna say yes based off.
He still only had 20 plays on offense.
Yeah, I agree. To this point, it's not even been close, right? It's been 20 to 55 or 60.
JJ was the feature back by far.
Oh, right, and I think Vaki is at his best when he's the accessory, not necessarily because they've ran some stuff with him with the featured Wildcat, but the stuff where you have JJ and him in the backfield, or you have him coming out of the wheel. Off the wheel, I'm not sure I've ever seen a player more dangerous off the wheel route.
No.
The stop and start. Okay, let's just get to the stop and start. When he stopped, the stop, and I texted you guys this. The stop was amazing. The start was godlike. I mean, the fact that he was able to accelerate that fast off of the stop to outrace all of those USC players. I mean, that's the type of stuff that gets you drafted on a day one type stuff, because you can't teach that. That you can't coach that. You either have the ability to do something like that, or you're one of the 99.999% of the rest of humanity. That man's got some moves.
Yeah, there's a lot at play there, not just the squat where like he sits so deep in that thing to do it in 2 steps somehow, 2 little starter
that's
steps,
the
and
thing.
just
It's
stops
2
it.
steps. Yeah.
And in those 2 steps, he just buries that squat, keeps his balance to be able to squat himself back up and accelerate fast enough to get, like you said, in front of that crowd. The image of him sprinting away from all of the USC defenders is just incredible. And what a moment, what a play, what a phenomenal player.
He stopped, and I was like, oh, great cutback. Like he'll get 5 or 6 more yards out of that. And then like nobody came close to him. And I'm like, my jaw dropped. That was inhuman.
Yeah.
And you can see too on the replay, it's clear, like he runs the route. He can see that there's no one out there. So as soon as he catches the ball, he has the awareness though to remember what he just saw, right? And just be like, no, I know there's nobody out here. Like hit those brakes as soon as you can. And he's just like, yeah, head to green pastures.
If
Man,
there was
the instincts to be able to just to turn that on offense as well is.
If there was a 10-meter dash in the Olympics, I think our boy might win gold. He's got the fastest acceleration I've ever seen. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if you take a classic sprinter that everybody admires with the Jamaican guy. I'm blanking on his name right now.
Usain Bolt.
Usain Bolt.
I almost would guarantee you he's not a superstar fast starter. I think Sione Vaki is probably in his neck of the woods in those first 10 meters. The first 10 meters are literally it blows my mind. So take the pass, the wheel route pass, the Bryson actually, he gave him some air. You watch, and he has the linebacker beat already, but watch the distance just grow in as fast as it does. I mean, it's just not even fair. Sione Vaki is, from his start to his probably 5th step, is the most impressive thing I've ever seen out of another human, I think.
From Utah safety to Utah running back to Olympic sprinter within 10 yards.
10-meter dash.
10-meter dash.
The TV angle doesn't do it justice, because when you're watching it, he's running directly at the camera, and there's kind of a funny like visual effect that the cameras have on their field angle. They make the field seem much narrower than it is, right? So like when you actually see a football field from far above or from the end zone, super wide. And so you lose a lot of like when players on TV are running laterally or directly towards a camera, it's hard to sense kind of what that speed is. And so on TV, it's hilarious watching him because he doesn't look like he's running fast. He looks like he hits those brakes and he's running, but he's covering some ground, but just nobody's coming. And it very much looked like a bunch of guys not trying very hard to tackle Sione Vaki briefly. And anyway, I just thought that was a fun moment in TV, like TV visual effects and Sione Vaki outrunning the USC's team and just making them look like they had given up.
Was this, is this like the unanimous favorite play of the game? Did you guys have any other nominations for favorite play or favorite moment from that game? Like, let's just stay in the moment and let's
Most impressive,
enjoy
I think,
these-
most impressive
plays.
physical play by a player was the Sione Vaki. For me personally, shocker as it may be, the Bryson Barnes 26-yard scramble to put the game in field goal. It wasn't just that it was Bryson Barnes. It was also redemption for the kid, right? He knew that he messed up with the pick six. That's really what you allowed USC to get back into it. Yes, there were other factors, but it was his job to get the Utes down the field. And that final play, we take the penalty, back us up even 5 more yards. And then he just busted loose and he did what he needed to do. So I think for me, that was the play of the game. But
how
Sione
shocked
Vaki-
were you? How shocked were you to see him? I think this may be an almost equally as shocking moment. But when Bryson Barnes tucks that ball, he's running and he breaks it outside and stays and he goes
and he comes back in.
Like, I feel like that is up there on the level of Sione Vaki squatting, stopping, and restarting. Just because I did not expect that from Bryson. Obviously, there's a lower level of athleticism here. Bryson Barnes isn't going to be challenging Usain Bolt in the 10-meter dash. But I'm just saying, for just all things considered, that from him bouncing it outside and then cutting it back upfield, I was super surprised.
He could have gone out of bounds, and then a lot of people maybe would have.
And then having the memory, knowing that they have timeouts, that he doesn't need to run out of bounds. Like he got 7 or 8 more yards after he could have gone out of bounds there at the end.
I think
that's all. All
10.
instincts, man.
Yeah,
not that he needed him though, because Cole Becker kicked the absolute shit out of that ball, put it 8 yards high onto the net above the field goal post, and just so that's where it's hard for me. How can I give it to? It's so hard to choose because the Sione Vaki play is the highlight play. The moment I feel like I can see when I close my eyes. The Bryson Barnes one was truly the turn up on when he didn't go out of bounds. Really was like almost like the stomach falling feeling on like it was just like, no, he's going for it. You can't see on TV, like from where we're at, as far as I know, he's thinking end zone, baby. And maybe he was, maybe he slipped a tackle and goes. But like Cole Becker stepped up and kicked the damn thing and made it with no time in the Coliseum, despite a couple of guys getting way up there and almost getting their hands on.
Well, that's the good news. Those extra 8 yards help you with the trajectory angle a little bit, right? You can kick it up a little bit more than you got to go straight because you don't need the distance.
I was going to say that. I'm so glad.
The pipe.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up. There's this picture I found. It's a Getty image, and literally they've got 3 guys, one 6'6", the other dudes are just freak athletes, I guess, with these insane verticals, but they're up there like just skying
it
to
looks
get
like
this
it's
thing.
inches away.
And just so it was a much tougher kick, even being at the 20-yard line or wherever it was. The fact that he was able to get it up over that little wall, impressive, man.
Props to our guy Jack Bomeister too, because the timeout called right before the attempt.
Took it like a man.
Took the snap to the face.
Took it like a man.
A lot of
Didn't
people
even phase him.
A lot of people think that Utah went out there and put the offense back after that timeout to center it. They were actually just giving Jack a moment to get his thoughts back together after being nearly knocked unconscious by JT with a ball to the face.
I just hope after he did that, he just looked back, looked down at JT and was like, "What the hell, man?"
That's exactly what he did. He took it straight to the face. All right, so big picture question here, and we're talking a lot about the plays and favorite moments from the game, but just big picture significance, I guess. How big is this win? Getting 3 straight over Lincoln and Caleb, getting 4 straight now over USC. How big is this for Utah?
I think it's more important to for this season. Just because again, it's a momentum game and it's a game that they can, like I said before, they can ride a wave through. But in the big picture of Utah's like history and like having 4 straight over USC, the conference is done after this year. They don't have a chance to try and get one back for the foreseeable future for 5-6 years potentially. That's huge. Like they will always go down at the end of the Pac-12 as losing 4 straight to Utah, and that's never going to change.
Ooh.
More than likely going to keep them out of the Pac-12 championship game for each of those 4 years, right? Yeah. Or no, excuse me, not keep them out of, but keep them from winning, right? Hadn't won it. Lincoln Riley and Caleb Williams likely won't have a chance to win the Pac-12 championship again this year. Never will have had a chance to win. I think it's as significant as you can continue to build on it. And so it's not going to mean anything 3 years from now if Utah goes 8-4 next season and 7-5 the next season and 6-6 the next season. If you continue to win if you continue to win in the Big 12, win that conference 1 or 2 times, I think it adds a lot of credibility to the conference as a whole. I think it certainly helps elevate Utah as a team that, it's certainly, I don't know how we'll think about teams as far as like Power 5 or whatever, right? When all of this is getting more shaken up, it's certainly more of a Power 2 and 2 or 3 others and then everybody else scenario. But Utah fits squarely somewhere in that high second tier.
Yeah, I think it's big in the sense that in the moment, and I said this 2 weeks ago, I said, and this is the Cal game, I said, hey, does this have the chance to be a kind of a program changing or program defining win? And it's to what Cam kind of said is how much you can continue to build on it. My thought is build on it for the immediate, right? So if you're able to go in and catapult this into another win, and I said this to somebody, this is the coolest thing about the Pac-12 this year and general. Utah just went toe-to-toe with USC, trading blows. Whole country was watching. And the whole idea was the loser of this game's basically eliminated from the conference title game, basically eliminated from the playoff, right? So you did that, you won. And what's your reward? You get to do it all over again next week. So if Utah is able to roll this into a win again next week, then things start to get really, the picture starts to get a little bit more simple as far as what you maybe have to do. Because make no mistake, goal number 1 is a 3-peat. They still want to win this Pac-12 title. That goal has not changed. They're not trying to limp to a bowl game. You heard Kyle after the game said, yeah, I guess we're bowl eligible. That's not really a focus of ours. And what he means by that is that that's so low of a threshold of where this program is now. They're not competing for bowl wins. You guys will remember the 2014 USC game when we finally beat them the first time. We were 5-1 going into it, and we won the game, beat them for the first time. And in the locker room, Kyle holds up the ball and he says, 2 words, bowl eligible. That doesn't mean anything to Utah anymore. That doesn't mean anything to Kyle Whittingham anymore because they're building towards a title run.
I can't believe you brought that up. I was going to bring that up, and I was like, man, this is going to be a deep cut.
You got to be quicker than that. I got the old baller on the fishing.
Man, anyway, I'm glad you did because I thought that was significant as well, and that moment stood out in my mind. So I'm sorry for
think a lot. No, but that's the point is Utah, even with the injuries, even missing Cam for the whole year, Brandt's out for the year. I mean, we'll be here all day if we're naming who's out for the year. The point is Utah is still going after that 3-peat. And how fun is it that we get to do this again? Yes, like it's not good for our hearts. My future cardiologist is pissed right now. But we get game day. We get a ranked Oregon team coming into our house for our last showdown, probably with them for the foreseeable future. Like, this is really fun. This. And I'm going to miss it because
fun home and home.
Because, Pac-12, we're going to the Big 12 and we'll make new rivalries and things. But, man, playing SC is, dude, it's different. It's, you just look at all the cameras that were there, the national media. And, Utah won, and that's great, and Utah gets all this coverage. I'm sorry, but if Utah would have been playing Cal, the coverage wouldn't have been there. And that's because you were playing, the star-studded LA school. And it was just a blast. If that doesn't turn you on, if that's not your thing, college football is not for you because that was fun.
That was fun. And, it's for me, it's a big win because, it's looking at the big picture. And we've already kind of seen all the talk of about Utah since the end of that game, right? What was what's his name? Gus Johnson and Joel Klatt. Joel Klatt, he posted a video talking about, Utah death taxes and Utah football and kind of elaborating on that and just the difference between Utah, USC in that game and how you can't, Utah's a team that they're always looking for a fight. And he understands what the brand is of Utah football. And I think that's been a big picture benefit, big picture, ripple effect of sorts, that the brand is growing. And I think this win is significant in that sense, that it is growing the brand, it is growing the reputation. And we start talking about the next phase of conference alignment, the focus is going to be on brands and recognizable. And I think just Utah continuing to win, for Kyle Whittingham specifically, his legacy, this is huge to now have. I shouldn't say it's huge, but it's much nicer to have than it isn't. But being able to say that, that you're 3-0 over Lincoln Riley Hotshot, USC, and all the talent that they have, he's got to feel good about that. And so I think for him, it's improved his reputation and his own brand and how he's viewed as a coach. And so I think all of this, and Andrew, you brought up ESPN College Game Day. If they don't get that win, is Game Day coming? No, they're not. Like, it's just that win is so impactful, and
that's exposure you can't buy either.
Right. That's the thing, is like, you can't buy that. You can't. It only is really, it's luck and it's how you're performing, but you got to have things kind of aligned for that sort of stuff to happen. And so all of these things, right, help you build toward the future. So even though it's a 34-32 win, over a pretty crummy, what is turning out to be a pretty crummy USC team, mostly because of that defense. But there's just things off in USC town. I think the vibes were weird. People don't know what's going on with the team. There's a lot of rumors. Lincoln Riley looking to bounce for the NFL. Things are weird down there, but still, you were able to get the win. That's all that matters. And you build on it, and you continue this momentum moving forward for sure.
Things are always tense in the China shop after the bull leaves,
Oof.
Well, yeah, and Lincoln Riley was feeling under the weather today, so he didn't do his typical weekly radio.
Brother,
appearance.
Me too, and here I am.
God.
Get it together. I feel like garbage.
Let's talk about. So we've talked about it a lot already, but Sione Vaki, Jaquinta Jackson, Bryson Barnes all played big roles in this game. The defense continued to do their thing, and we'll give them their flowers as well. But I want to talk about Bryson Barnes, his progression. Curious to get your guys' thoughts on what stood out the most of his performance. Where do you feel he made improvements over last week?
He made throws. Tyson.
Good.
He made throws he had to make. The throws that he missed previously, the throws that he missed against Cal, he made twice against USC. First one for a touchdown on the opening drive. First throw of the game against USC. His next long touchdown drive was another perfect opening drive as well. He made all the throws he needed to make. When they had scheduled drives like you might see at the beginning of a half, he executed perfectly. When he had to and he had to be creative, he stepped up and did things with his feet. Was the third rusher after Jaquinta and Sione, and then Bryson Barnes, I believe, for Utah, had ended the night with something in the 50 or 60 range, if I'm not mistaken.
57, I think.
57.
Yeah, 57. The 26-yarder to set up the winning field goal. I mean, he did everything you asked from him, bar one mistake where he threw a ball he shouldn't have thrown. He should have just eaten. But otherwise, played a pretty much perfect game on the road in a really tough environment.
Yeah, he's a completely different player than the guy that we saw in the Baylor game. I think the biggest thing for him is, he has that confidence, and he knows the coaches have that confidence in him this week. I think he was able to play a lot more freely. He knew he wasn't going to get, yanked from the game if he threw a pick, or So, you he could play a little bit more free. And then obviously he's improved massively over the last couple weeks. What we saw this Saturday was a guy knowing the player he is and going out there and being that player. He can throw it just as well as a lot of guys can. And he had that ability and that confidence in himself and with the coaches to make stuff happen. That touchdown throw to Landon King was one that I am going to remember for Bryson Barnes for a really long time.
He's
incredible.
fading away. His
best play
fades away.
That's his best college play. It has to be.
Yes.
Like the way he moves around in the pocket, he clearly goes away from his first decision or two, moves left out of the pocket, decides it's not the way to go, moves back right, throwing off of his back foot, fading away, Kobe Bryant style. An absolute perfect pass to Landon King, who makes a great grab as well. What a phenomenal play! That was. If Sione Vaki hadn't stolen the moment with his play, that was a highlight play.
Yeah, that's like you said, that's his best play in college. Like you can talk about the Rose Bowl touchdown, but again, that was take a step back. That was the only person.
It was a pretty good ball.
It was a great ball, in a great moment. But that is the play that I will always remember Bryson Barnes for. Is again avoiding the rush. I honestly think Landon King was who he was trying to go to at first, because Landon came up in the middle of the field and sat about a yard in the middle of the end zone. But then Bryson got flushed out, went left, went right, and again Landon, credit to him, to see which way Bryson was going, and then to just move straight down the line, get open, and made sure. And you saw him as he started going towards the sideline. He looked to make sure he was staying in the end zone too, that he wasn't fading into or out of the end zone. So he looked, made sure he was there. Bryson, just again, perfect ball right to the chest, touchdown like that. If Bryson can do that consistently, I can answer my question. This team will ride this wave through the rest of the year into another shot at the Pac-12 title, because that was elite quarterback play.
Maybe getting ahead of ourselves, but I think I agree with that. I think anyway, let's talk about that in a little bit.
Yeah. So Bryson has always had the tools, in my opinion. I think his ball is good enough. Is he CJ Stroud with the ball? No. But it's good enough. His ball's every bit as good as a lot of quarterbacks that have been much better than him that have gone to the NFL. The ball's fine. His ability to scramble has always been fine. He's always been a good athlete. The problem with him is he's been so tentative. He's been so worried, and you see him starting to build that confidence. What I love most from the game from Bryson. So a couple main things. First main thing is what was probably his biggest mistake last week, probably not giving Sione Vaki any room for error on that pass against Cal, right? It was either Sione Vaki had to run a perfect route or the ball wasn't going to be completed. This week, he has basically the same play, other side of the field. And what does he do? He puts it up with enough air underneath that Sione even slows down a little bit. The linebacker gets closer to him. Arguably, it's not a perfect throw, but he learned from his mistake last week, corrected it enough to lead to a touchdown this week. So I just think the resilience in showing, hey, he can get better. And that was one of the things I kind of harped on during the week last week is why are we assuming that other quarterbacks can get better, but Bryson is just who he is and he can't get better? He showed you he got better. Something he could not do a week ago, he made sure to take advantage of this week. Second thing I loved was the pick six. Not because I love the pick six. That was god awful. Terrible throw, terrible decision. But you know what the best thing about Bryson Barnes is? Nobody knows that decision was so bad as much as Bryson knows. And he's going to, again, internalize that, get back to film study, make it better. But the fact that he came back after, and Cam, you hit on this in your article, is we've seen what Bryson has done after he's made a mistake in the past, completely crumpled, just shell of himself, right, against Baylor. This week he throws the pick six, and he comes back and he takes Utah down the field, gets him in plays. And several times he had to call his own number. And just the resilience that kid shows, which over the course of his career, if you're doubting his resilience, It's you shouldn't, because he's just resilient. I think he has a chance to, again. It was not a perfect game. He had the pick six. Another huge play he missed on was the 4th and 1. The blockers were there. I don't know if he ran the wrong thing. If he got the draw, he ran it to the right. If he goes to the left, he may score. The blockers are there, so I don't know if he got flustered and ran the wrong play, or he didn't know the right read from the jump. I'm not sure, but guess what? He's going to figure that out this week, and there's nobody I have more confidence in him. I mean, he's like the anti-Travis Wilson in the sense that he's going to watch as much film as he possibly can throughout the week. And that's the reality, is that's also his game, right? Bryson has to be so good at the fundamentals, because he's not Lamar Jackson. He's not Caleb Williams. He's not even Cam Rising in terms of kind of the athleticism and the raw skill. He's not as fast as Tyler Huntley. He's got to win in getting better week to week, film room, studying, and getting better at his mistakes. And to me, this week we saw as big of a jump as we've seen in one game, in my opinion, from a quarterback in Utah history. Like, I'm sure there's probably examples of it, but mentally the jump was significant this week. And if he can build on that, and I'm not saying he can, but to Tyson's point, if he can, there's no reason that they can't beat Oregon.
Yeah, that's more or less what I was going to say earlier. I think if Utah gets the Bryson that they got against USC, I don't think there's reasons to believe they couldn't beat Oregon,
especially at home.
Yeah, especially at home. I think they. Like I said, I mean, we on OTR, I think it was, picked for the USC game and didn't have a lot of optimism as a group. And looking at where we are, I think a big part of that is because of the Bryson that we saw. If we see a similar Bryson, a similar Sione, a similar Jaquindon, if those guys play like they did again at home, yeah, I think you can beat Oregon this week. I think that game is probably less winnable still. Steve, I think you picked it as your game that was the most winnable of the big three remaining. So eager to talk more about that this week if we do.
Yeah.
I'm assuming we'll do an OTR this week.
Yeah, we will. So I think with Bryson, I think the big thing for me and where I saw the most progress was, his decision making. Yeah, the pick six was there, and it's a bad decision, but overall, like, he was put in situations where he had to make more decisions. One thing that we talked about on last week's podcast was how Bryson, areas that he could improve. And one thing that I thought we could see from him is improved performance against the blitz. I figured it's an easy way to make improvements, because if you know where the blitz is coming from, you can throw to where the blitz evades the space that is left behind. And I thought that would be an easy way for Bryson to improve. He did not make great improvements. He did improve from his performance against Cal in that regard, but where he made just his biggest leap was when he was kept clean. And so he was 9 of 11 for 167 yards, a couple touchdowns on that. So he had the Sione Vaki play, but when he was kept clean, he was able to make the right reads, make good throws, and it was a big source of improvement for him. And just the decision-making too. He threw 2 routes that we had not seen up to this point. A deep dig route, a couple slant routes. He made those throws. And I believe it was a Devon Bailey slant route. If he threw it to the correct window, so there's that first initial window, and then there's usually a defender. He actually throws it behind into that second window, and I thought that was a big sign of just the progress that he can make.
Big third down completion too.
Yeah, and it was a big one there too. So saw some encouraging things there that suggests that there is genuine improvement. It's not just he's making throws and other guys are making plays. He's the guy that's making the progress, and the offense is performing better. And it really says a lot that even 235 yards passing makes all the difference. But it really was a big difference in that it kept the USC defense, it kept them honest. They were able to take advantage of throws, and it it allowed Utah to keep that run game open in that second half. And I thought that was huge for them. And that all comes back to Bryson Barnes and the improvement he made there.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because it ties into something that I wanted to mention as far as how many yards a Utah quarterback is really capable of. A Utah quarterback's ceiling is low because A, they do run the ball, but B, they don't like to run. They want to run as few plays as possible. Right. So like they're just not going to be a team where you're going to have opportunities to throw the ball 35 times a game. Usually if Utah's throwing the ball 35 times a game, things are either something very wrong happened, or you've had a really yardage game problem.
Yeah.
And like that's kind of same thing with someone mentioned Sione Vaki in relation to like Travis Hunter and how they were playing on the field as kind of two-way stars. And Travis Hunter has played so many more snaps than Sione Vaki and on both sides of the ball in the same game, right? Like he's putting up stats of things like 140 plays in a game. And that's where you start to see that become really unsustainable for Colorado. And you start to see where Stanford is, getting some yardage on Travis Hunter and scoring the game. It wasn't game winning, but game tying or something touchdown at the time on Travis Hunter when your guy is playing 140 plays in a game. And so it's interesting how even like the two-way dynamic with Sione Vaki, Utah's style of play might help that be something that's more possible, because you're not asking him to play, you're asking him to play what you might expect one defensive player to play on another Big 12 team, let's call it. Whereas, you're essentially, if you're Travis Hunter, you're being asked to play double the output that Sione Vaki was, even playing two ways.
Cam brings up a good point when he talks about Utah's quarterback. It's just generally limited a lot because not only do they not throw the ball as much, but they just don't run as many plays. A lot of people have kind of, they have this, in my opinion, this kind of 300-yard mark that signifies a great performance. Let me just break something down to you. Bryson Barnes had 22 attempts. If he were to thrown for 300 yards, he would have had to have thrown for about 13.6 yards per attempt. You know what the NCAA leader in yards per attempt is? It's like 11 and a half. That's the best quarterback in the NCAA as yards per attempt, about 11 and a half. Just so happens to be Jaden Daniels, which is ironic as well.
What?
But yards per attempt.
No.
It's okay to forgive Jaden Daniels, Utah fans. Just enjoy him. He's very fun. He's very fun. He also does something really weird and stupid, like once a game, like hurdle into a pile, and like it's
5 yards slammed. 5
but
years.
Then he'll do just incredible athletic stuff that you're just like, oh man, I get it.
But the point is that to get 300 yards as a Utah quarterback is sometimes it's almost impossible, even no matter how well you're playing. So Bryson is playing very efficient, but you're like, if you're expecting 300 yards, or if that's your marker as to what's great quarterback play, you got to find a different program, because Kyle Whittingham's quarterbacks are just not routinely going to throw for 300 yards. It just doesn't happen.
I got to tell you, I think the only way you get Bryson to 300 yards in that game is to get better receivers, not better quarterback.
Yeah.
Or you throw it 50 times, I guess. But
yeah.
But I mean, it's like, but that's the thing is, if you're only going to throw it 22 times or whatever, if you're only going to give him 22 throws and you want him to get 300 yards, you got to get better receivers. You got to get guys who are 20 yards per catch type threats. Utah doesn't really have those right now.
I wouldn't mind it if they did, though.
That'd be nice.
No, please.
Try it.
Do you need trucks?
How did what's his face at Georgia Tech?
Trucks, Cam, they're leased.
Sorry, do you need truck leases?
I bet if they gave him away, we'd probably get a Jordan Addison in here, but no,
probably
vehicles.
What was that? Paul Hewitt that ran the option, but at Georgia Tech, but he always had a really damn good receiver because he
like Calvin Johnson,
Demarius Thomas. He was like, I just promised them that they're going to get a ton of one-on-one looks because we run the ball so damn much. Why can't Whittingham offer the same promise?
Yeah,
because they are getting a ton of one-on-one matchups. Like, let's make it happen. Let's make some promises.
Well, and also it's like, hey, we got 22 throws in a game. Guess where 20 of them are going? Like, they're going to you, pal. Come be a five-star receiver at Utah. We will throw at you every time.
Dalton Kincaid's bank
to
account is really grateful for that right now.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I wanted to add to Andrew and Cam's talks about Bryson's play, but also the offense as a whole. One thing I think that really helped Bryson this week was Ludwig was showing off a little bit in this game. I think Ludwig finally has, again, like we know, the confidence in Bryson, and Bryson has the confidence that he's not going to get yanked after a mistake. But I think Ludwig really opened it up, and I think another big part of that obviously is having Sione Vaki back there, because there's so many things you can do with him. The wheel route, the Texas routes. He can run the ball really effectively. But when you had JJ, who I think this is the best game he's looked as a running back. He looked fast. He looked decisive. He was making really good cuts, and it was consistent. It was consistent. It wasn't like, he'd have one really good run and then 4 or 5 4-yard gains that he has to, fight for. Like, he looks good.
I will say, if he bounces one of his runs to the outside, he cut inside and was tackled, right there. There were 2 guys right there. If he bounces it, it was almost like a little hop skip to the right. But if he just bounces outside, he's probably walking into the end zone on that run. Just to critique, I want him to score. I want him to get in there.
He looks like he's running angry, which I think is a good thing, and sometimes a bad thing, because you seek out the contact. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's the thing. It's like it's at such a pace and smoothness and effortlessness. There's just an ease to him as well, where it's like, I think the anger runs and the anger finishes catch a lot of defenders by surprise, because they're getting rocked to sleep by his stride. Like, he is just so smooth, man.
It's not Quinton Ganther running down like that Quinton Ganther,
where he's running super hard.
He's running super hard. Like, JJ just looks like he's
gliding around out there.
Yeah.
He floats like a butterfly,
and then out of nowhere, he just trucks you over, and you have no idea what just happened. But
dude, it's unique.
The way he's been playing, the way that Vaki's been used, Ludwig opened up so much of the playbook, and I think that helped Bryson a lot, because when you need a defense who needs to account for Sione Vaki, they need to account for JJ. They needed to account for JJ running quarterback and running read option with Sione Vaki. When you have all that stuff you got to think about, that's when you can start sending Devon Vele across the middle, Mikey Matthews across the middle, and Bryson can make those throws, especially with a team that blitzes a lot like USC does. They're vacating so much space in the middle that now you can get guys across the middle, and Bryson was just peppering those routes.
He was doing it. He was making some good throws. I think Vaki is so much more valuable on the offensive side of the ball, because he's going to bring a gravity to the offense now, where defenders have to pay attention to him much closer than they did before. And that's going to open up opportunities for the rest of the guys. It's going to add space, to guys elsewhere in the offense. And I think that's valuable when you're talking about Andy Ludwig offense. That's predicated on precision, timing, running routes at certain yardages. All of these things matter. And so to have another player that has that sort of gravity, that sort of where players have to pay attention to him, even just a split second longer, even that can make all the difference in an offense that requires a lot of precision with the passing attack.
You guys bring that up, and there's the one specific play where I went when I saw on the rewatch that I thought, wow, okay, that's a result of what Utah had been doing all game. Watch the Bryson Barnes run to get him into field goal position. There's a guy in the flat, and he's kind of out there on Bryson's right to the side he runs to, and JJ's out there. JJ was originally in pass pro, and he leaks out, right? Well, when he leaks out and he's out in the flat and then starts cutting up field, the defender goes with him, and he turns his back to Bryson, and that's when Bryson really cuts it back in. So you watch that. He's getting out to the right. JJ takes his guy upfield, And that's when Bryson cuts it back in and gets another 10, 15 yards. That's a result of those linebackers having to cover the running backs out of the backfield all night for the passes that resulted in a huge play for Utah that had nothing to do with the running back get the ball. And so when you have to be defensively honest, it opens things up.
Yeah, I want to go back to Tyson's point about Andy Ludwig kind of being in his bag. That reminded me of the will route, the first one. I think it was actually both of them, actually. So this speaks to the level of scouting and preparation. If you remember that Florida game, that Florida defense, we talked about it like a blitz and peel where the defensive end will rush upfield. And if the running back leaks out, he's going to peel off of his rush and pick him up in coverage. Well, what does Ludwig do to take advantage of that? He sends Sione Vaki on a will route and says, good luck, Braylon Shelby, keep up. And that to me speaks to they saw something, they identified something in film prep, were able to implement it because of Sione Vaki being on the field, being available to them. And I think it's so unique. So it all just kind of ties together. Sione Vaki's presence, Andy Ludwig's, sort of in his bag. What I say on Saturday night when it's Andy and his nightlight, tread lightly. Like, yeah, he was on something.
Bro, Alex Grinch saw Andy do that in the Cal game and then still let them pull it off twice. Twice!
Got better athletes. He figured he had a chance.
What a joke.
Wait,
we're all working for a living.
I think that
guy's making how much for USC? We'll never know.
You're implying that he did watch the film against Cal, which I don't know if we want to make that assumption. But
it is funny. We talked a little bit about, we didn't go like super into, but USC and Cal's defenses were ranked like pretty much the same. And Utah scored the same amount of points against both of them. So that's fun.
It's a good point. That's a good point.
Yeah, just fun facts and data these last 2 weeks.
Where's the Oregon defense ranked?
Oh, boy, you don't want to know.
They're pretty good. They're on the other end of the ranking. So wherever Cal and USC are, they're opposite of
Ludwig's going to need to.
He's going to get back in that bag.
Yeah,
he's going to need to stay in that bag.
Going to have to go deep in that bag.
Deep,
and
if Oregon's defense, and I will get into this on the OTR, but if Oregon's defense does have a weakness, it is in the secondary. It's in the pass game. So that's going to have to be something that Ludwig's going to have to be cognizant.
A Bryson Barnes let him cook game against the Oregon Ducks?
I just think that Andy needs to be cognizant of the areas of opportunity, which are a little bit further up the field. Against USC, man, the area of opportunity was you run it right at them because they're soft. But they are soft. He did take advantage of, the passing lanes as well. So
that whole program soft. Lincoln Riley soft. Players, soft. Alex Grinch, all of them soft. Like
the only thing not soft in that program is Lincoln Riley's brisket. That thing is
tough.
That thing is
Kyle Whittingham tough. That's stamped with the wit approval there.
Yeah. Anyway, I still think my theory on the blackmail is that that Alex Grinch is the one who actually cooked that brisket.
Let's step away from the USC game and Utah a little bit.
I don't know if that actually makes sense now that I say it.
I think it's kind of reverse, but let's laugh at it anyways.
It doesn't matter.
Let's zoom.
Everything's fine.
I love that 5 minutes later that light comes on. Oh, that joke didn't hit right.
No, it was backwards.
Yeah. Anyways,
let's wind it back. 12. Let's start it over. Okay, it's just like back to one. Everybody back to one.
Yeah. So we're 8 weeks into the season. We've got a lot of opinions, a lot of evaluation, a lot of analysis, a lot of thoughts on a lot of these Pac-12 programs. We have talked about it the last couple of weeks, kind of resetting the picture a little bit. Would be curious to hear your guys' thoughts after we saw Washington struggle with Arizona State, Oregon even a little bit struggling with Washington State. Obviously, Utah taking care of business. Just how do you guys kind of see the Pac-12 and who's at the top here?
Man,
I still think Oregon and Washington are my top tier. think Utah's somewhere on a ladder between tier 2 and tier 1 right now. You could easily, that ladder could turn into a chute and you could slide down. But you got every opportunity to climb that ladder this weekend. I think USC, I think it was either Cam or Tyson that said it like 2 weeks ago that USC was closer to the bottom of tier 2 than they were to the top. And at the moment, I was a little dubious of that, but I think it's spot on. I think Oregon State, Washington State, Utah, UCLA are kind of all in that same mix. And I mean, I'm not saying UCLA will beat USC, but I think all of those programs are capable of hanging with USC, if not beating them outright. And so the only change I would have is that Utah's maybe at the top of tier 2, looking to maybe make a move up, but we'll see if they can make that.
Yeah, I kind of had the same thought. About the same. Washington and Oregon are tier 1 kind of on their own right now. I think Utah's knocking on the door, and they have an opportunity on Saturday just to kick it down and enter that top tier as well. But yeah, I think everybody, again, UCLA, Oregon State. I think Washington State might be taking a step down a tier with their play lost 3 straight, I think.
Yeah.
And then like Stanford, ASU, or Colorado might be like in a tier of their own between those two, where like
Stanford got them,
so their defense that's true.
Circle of suck. Yeah.
Circle of suck. Yeah.
Yeah. I think I agree with both of you, most of your principle. Like Washington and Oregon feel like the 2 standouts above. Utah's loss to Oregon State hurts them a lot, like in terms of the tier rankings, because it's hard to put them below Oregon State. But otherwise, win this week and you are thrust into that top tier with those 2 teams. If not at the top of the second tier, and then Washington kind of stands alone until someone knocks them down. But I think Washington's kind of the clear front runner right now, even though, like we said last week, I don't know if it was on OT. I think it was on OTR. Maybe it was on this. Those Arizona teams, man, can't trust them.
They are
Arizona teams. They sneak up on you in the second half of the season. They almost got Washington in Seattle.
They got them last year, and Washington, it was almost 2 in a row.
Yeah. Washington, Oregon actually both have struggled in the desert with
Utah goes to Arizona in that second to last week again. I am not looking forward to it. That's going to be a scary week for Utah.
The last time we went down there, we had a much better team than Arizona, and we squeaked it out. So we also gave up 2 special teams touchdowns, but
we did. Yeah, that was a tough one down there in old Tucson. I'm with you guys. Like, it's Washington, it's Oregon. When talking about I thought a lot about Cam. You brought it up, but I said I thought the best opportunity at getting a win against USC, Oregon, Washington, I thought it actually came against Oregon because that game is at home. But I think Oregon is, man, I think they're a tough matchup because in a lot of ways, Utah was able to take advantage of the softness that USC has permeating throughout their program. And Oregon, they're not soft. Utah's going to have to earn it, and they're going to have. I don't want to say it's not going to be a difficult time, but they've got to bring their lunch pails, and they're going to have to go to work, and it's going to be tough, much tougher than it was against USC. And so I'm curious to see how this game goes. But with Oregon and Washington, I go back and forth because I trust Oregon's defense more. I like the balance that Oregon has on offense more. And so even though Washington, beat them at home, I think I have Oregon atop the conference, just based on what I've seen and that sort of stuff. But I think Oregon State, Utah, they're in that next tier. And then, UCLA, USC, Arizona, and that's how I see and then the rest of the conference doesn't matter. But that's kind of how I see it as well. So it's going to be tough, man. Utah got the win against USC on the road. Pretty impressive performance overall. But this schedule, this back half schedule is a doozy.
We're in the middle of it, really. I mean,
Yeah.
you're in the middle of right now of the hardest stretch run of the schedule. Good news is, if you're Utah, yeah, you lost to Oregon State, but you went out. Nothing else matters. You're going to the conference title game. That's a fact. You went out. So your goals are all in front of you.
How crazy would that be? How crazy would that be for Utah to make it back to the championship game? Everything on the table, with everything that we have learned about this team, everything we've experienced this season, how crazy would it be for Utah to be back for number 3?
It would be the most shocking season in Utah history.
It would be crazy.
There's nothing else comparable.
If you tell me that, like, you go back in time before the season and you tell me all the injuries that are going to happen, like, don't tell me the record of the team, but tell me all the injuries that'll happen, who's playing where.
Yeah,
we pulled a safety in to play running back. I would have told you we were 2-4 right now.
I'm saying it right now. If Utah makes the conference championship game this year, it's the most impressive coaching job. With how good the conference was this year, that's ridiculous.
The stats,
all
if they
of
go
the
back,
off-field garbage they've had to deal with, and with having what's a lot of oh my gosh, the algorithms or whatever what am I trying to say? These models and stuff are saying like the Pac-12 is actually the best conference in the country this year,
damn straight,
from worst to first type situation. And it's just like, yeah, man, getting to the conference championship game in this season is without Cam Rising, without Brandon Rose, without Brant Keithy, with who else do we need to keep going now without Lander Barton?
Lander Barton.
Come on. Make the championship game and your legendary team.
This national coach of the year.
This is like I feel like the end point of something that especially us and everybody in the Discord and anyone who follows us has been talking about for the last 5 or 6 years when we talk about recruiting classes. This is the end game. This is exactly what all those years of like these top, like what do we got, like 6 straight years of the best recruiting class in school history. This is what it's getting us when we're losing QB1, QB2, RB2. We're down to our not only
wide receiver 3, tight end 1, tight end 2.
Not only are we on our third string quarterback, we're on our third string center, our third string tight end, probably our third string linebacker at this point, and they're 6-1. Like, if they make it back to the conference championship, there better be a Kyle Whittingham statue outside of the stadium before the start of next year. Before March.
If not a statue, like, let's work our way up. Maybe like I don't know, some kind of paper mache structure.
A paper mache, a pinata.
Let's start with a pinata.
Steve and I talked about this when Utah lost to Oregon last year. It was actually the night before we played Oregon, but neither here nor there. We just talked about the run that Kyle Whittingham is in his program. 18. You start with a couple conference losses. Kind of feels like, dang, maybe this is kind of a get ready season or throwaway season. Reels off a bunch of victories. They end up getting to the conference title game. 2019, you're gearing up for your best run. Heartbreak in the Coliseum against USC. It felt like maybe Utah wasn't going to be there. Huge run. 2021, the loss to BYU, the loss to Southern or San Diego State, the loss
to Oregon State.
Yeah, the loss of a player. And it just felt like, man, like everything is going wrong in Utah football right now. Goes on a run. 2022, we for all intents and purposes, we're out dead after the Oregon loss, right? Everything breaks our way. Get back there. This year, you've lost so many players, and you're halfway through the season. Your offense looks as anemic as you can imagine. And then, the Undertaker coming out of his
coffin.
His coffin. You cannot count Kyle Whittingham and his teams out. Just don't do it. Like 6-1. Yes, the season could end up 8-4. There's every possibility in the world for that. But betting against him at this point would be bad based off of the last 5-6 years track record. We're witnessing greatness as far as Utah coaching goes. I I know speaking individually, need to probably appreciate that more because he's not going to coach forever. And this program's just in the midst of a historic run the last 4 or 5 years.
I'm going to go back to opening conversation we had. How big was this win against USC? And just listen to the last 10 minutes talking about this team. We're talking about them making it back to their third straight championship. And the conversation is completely revitalized, rejuvenated, rejuiced, all of the above. It's completely changed and kind of recharged the batteries for Utah. It feels like for everybody involved with Utah football, fans, players, coach, like it just feels there's a different vibe. And for whatever reason, getting that win against USC, it's just kind of, man, I don't want to say validated a lot of things, but because that's not it. I feel like this was a game that they desperately wanted because, perhaps there's a little frustration with the way that USC talked about the games and how they went down last year. Maybe there was, some feelings, regarding that. And to get that win, I'm sure was just so satisfying for them, for the coaches and players. But for us, it's completely rejuvenated the convo around this team. It's provided everybody, I think, to just kind of purge themselves of all the frustration and annoying things that have happened this year and almost kind of like reset and revitalize everybody for this final month. I think it's been fun to listen to the conversation tonight because we're raving about these players and these offensive players at that. We're talking about Utah getting back to a championship game when last week the tone was very different. And so it's amazing what one win can mean. And man, it's been pretty impressive.
Everybody
Playing out
talked
Scrinch
about
is the best medicine.
Everybody talked about this being USC's get right game, like that they were going to have a get right game against Utah. But should we really be asking, was USC the get right game for Utah?
Who was it that said
they got right?
There was a national writer that just said there's no such thing as a get right game against Utah.
That was Josh Pate.
Josh Pate.
Yeah,
yep, Josh Pate.
You don't get
his rant after whatever on a show where he just the comparison between Utah and USC's programs, like how they prepare for games, how the coaches prepare, and just the perception of the two programs was incredible to listen to.
That's what I mean is like the conversation just changes. Everybody is buying into what Kyle Whittingham and Utah football are about. Like this win was so big because it continues to change the narrative around Utah. It continues to improve and enhance how everybody views the program, and that stuff again is going to matter in however many years when all of this conference realignment stuff starts up again.
In 2021 it was that was Clay Helton, was Clay Helton. Doesn't count. And Cam Rising, Magic, whatever, all that doesn't count. Second, it's like, well, now we got Lincoln Riley. You had us at home.
Officials,
officials. You had Dalton Kincaid went off without him. That's the only difference. Pac-12 championship game. You've got a hobbled Cam. You've got Dalton with a broken back. Still win on a neutral field.
Well, because everybody talked about Caleb's hamstring, right?
Right. Caleb's. Oh yeah, right. Because Caleb's hurt. That's why we lost this game. It's because he played the whole game, but he was hurt. And so. Unlike Cam, who played 6 games with, it doesn't matter.
Offensive lineman's knee brace.
Yeah, we don't need to worry about that. And then this game was finally all right, on our terms, as they put it on social media, right? It's like we're going to get you in our house. We've planned for this. We've circled this date.
We've got
Caleb's
the refs
we've
pocket.
got a healthy team. We've got the upper hand in almost every way, including you coming in here wounded. And it's just like, don't matter.
Didn't matter.
Yeah.
Did not matter.
The ultimate juxtaposition to me of the programs and just the coaches, the players, was they had a split screen there at the end. Caleb Williams sulking on the sideline, refusing to get up and shake hands of the team that just whooped his ass. Which fine, whatever. You want to be a baby, that's fine. And then on the other split screen, you had former walk-on pig farmer, third string quarterback turned Trojan Slayer being interviewed by the national media and talking about how it was all about his team and all 22. And after the pick six, how all he needed to do was get down in a field position, and he knew that his team would take care of it. So, like, yeah, that's the difference between Kyle Whittingham and Lincoln Riley. That's the difference between Utah and USC. That's the difference between a Bryson Barnes and a Caleb Williams. And ultimately, as Kyle Whittingham said at halftime, this game's going to come down to who wanted it more. And at the end of the day, I think Utah showed flat out, we're going to beat you and we want it more.
It's a good Wendy's ad though. Like he does great in it. He's got great presence in front of the camera. 10 out of 10.
Yeah. He's going to make a lot of money not playing football as well as playing football. So good for him.
So good for Caleb. Keep your chin up. It's not all life's not just about beating Utah at football.
Which is good because you're never going to do it. So
you're not going to get that chance. Yeah. Some people are lucky enough to get that opportunity. You're just not one of those people. You know
what?
I would.
Aaron Rodgers didn't get it either.
He won Super Bowls in the NFL. Great player, made a lot of money. He could never beat Utah. You're not the only one, Caleb. There's a lot of losers out there.
Oh man, I was trying to think. What are the maches, paper maches, where it's images, and as you crop out, as you zoom out, you get a bigger image, and all of the smaller like pictures kind of contribute to the bigger image.
That's a collage.
Does any of this,
collage?
A collage. Sorry, what did I say? A paper mache?
You
said
paper
a collage.
Guess it could be paper mache.
Should be made out of paper mache. Right?
The world's biggest collage cast or something.
Just a big collage of Caleb Williams on the bench with his head up, his hands on his forehead. You can imagine that there are probably tears. I would love to see a collage of just all the pictures that USA Today Sports and Getty Images and whoever else was there shooting the game, just all of the pictures of that moment added into a big collage of Caleb Williams.
And then you zoom out and it's crying Michael Jordan face.
I will say though, this year, because there was the progression memes that were going around, and it was like, hey, this was the at Utah game, and he's all mad, and then it's like the championship game, and he's all mad and sad, and then it's the Utah one, and he just looked kind of perplexed. Like he
Honestly,
was just like, I don't know what I got to do, Like I thought, and it was just like, well, you got to have more than 0 passing touchdowns, Caleb. That's one place to start.
It was the realization that he was just not going to beat Utah ever. I think that's what that final third edition of the Caleb Williams facepalm cry stuff. I think that's what it was just a realization that he just wasn't going to ever beat Utah.
Well, they're taking it hard. I'd love to see if some of the USC media could ask him about this, but apparently
they're off limits.
They've cut tail and ran, head coach included.
They'll have to talk to Lincoln Riley, who is unfortunately missing.
Interviewing with the Chicago Bears. Oh, what? Oh, shoot.
That video was great of Lincoln Riley like answering questions, and in the background you just hear "Many Men" by 50 Cent coming from Utah's locker room. That was amazing.
That was pretty good. I at first was a little confused. It took me because I was watching, I'd watch the game late or whatever. It was like in bed watching the press conference stuff, and I was just like, why is the USC locker room so happy? Like I was like, man, they seem fine
because they never have to play Utah again.
Well, what's funny is they kind of, to Cam's point, they very much minimized Utah. You could tell those players that this was it. This was the game that they had waited for, that they wanted to get this. Kyle was kind of, I guess, gracious, you'd say, and saying, hey, I don't know, I don't want to be presumptive in calling it a rivalry. Those USC players wanted it. 90 was visibly upset on the sidelines,
which is weird because he wasn't even here last year. But anyways,
yeah, I kind of felt bad for him.
I don't know. It was a second of the day.
That was a soft call.
It was his
Yeah,
second.
well-
it was his second unsportsmanlike call of the day. It's like
That's
I don't know. Fool me once.
Plus, with the way Cole went out last week, I was like, you could take that.
Yeah.
Neither here nor there, but the team looked dejected after the game. They looked like that looked like a broken team. It'll be interesting to see if Lincoln can bring it back together. Because the reality is they could still finish with one loss in conference. Like there's no reason that they should be done for the season, but that team looked like they were in a bad place.
Yeah.
Please let it happen. Please let it end up somehow. Some weird shit happens and it ends up Utah USC in the conference title again.
Oh,
What would even need to happen at this point? It would have to be a lot.
both teams
USC would have to win.
USC
out.
would have
Utah
to
would
win out.
And then Oregon State would have to lose one.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean,
That's it.
that's probably going to happen. They got to play Washington and Oregon, right?
But you also need Washington and Oregon to lose twice. I
To
guess.
Utah.
Well, no,
Yeah, they
just
would.
once.
Yeah,
If
yeah.
both teams
USC
win
would
out.
play them, right?
Yeah.
Oh, here we go. Talking tiebreaker scenarios again. God.
God
Too
damn.
early.
Here it is.
Somebody asked me about it in the Discord a few weeks ago,
Wrap
and I
it
was
up.
just like, no.
No.
It's way too early. I can't do this.
We're not
yet.
ready to
need,
dust off
We need
this book.
dominoes to fall.
Yeah.
So I know you want to wrap it up, but 4-0 against USC, that presumptively that's the last time we'll play them here as conference mates and for the foreseeable future. But if there was one more chance, that would be pretty exciting. That would be fun to see Utah go out one more time against Lincoln Riley.
God.
It's been a great series.
Cancel
It has.
the Baylor game next year, and since they're going to be a conference member, and just reschedule USC home and home or USC neutral site in LA. Let's do it.
Las Vegas, but yeah.
I bet Lincoln Riley would be.
Did I say
all over
LA?
that.
I meant Las Vegas. Neutral site in LA would not be great.
Yeah. Be like, we're playing at the Rose Bowl? What other neutral sites could you play?
Well,
at
if Utah
in
finally wins a
LA?
Rose Bowl game.
Oh man. All right, let's go ahead. Let's wrap this one up. This has been a fun one, man. I do hope that everybody's kind of feeling rejuvenated after that win. It's these seasons can be long, they can be frustrating, they can be annoying at times. But enjoy these wins, man. They're fun. Like this, we get the sport for 15 weeks a year, 16, 17, 20 weeks, however long it lasts. Enjoy them, man. Enjoy these wins. Savor these USC ones in particular because, man, they are extra sweet. Appreciate all the listeners. Appreciate all the support. This has been the Utah Blockcast.